The sky above Muan International Airport was filled with smoke and sadness. A Jeju Air Boeing 737-800, flight 2216 from Bangkok, lay broken on the runway. The plane, once so grand, was now a twisted mess of metal and fire. It was a terrible reminder of the tragedy that had just happened. 179 people died. This is South Korea's worst plane crash in 20 years. December 29, 2024, will never be forgotten. A day that started with the excitement of families coming together for the holidays ended with unbelievable heartbreak. Families waiting for their loved ones were suddenly faced with a nightmare. The air was filled with the sharp smell of jet fuel and the noise of sirens. It was a scene of chaos and sadness. The plane crashed with terrible force. It seemed to lose control as it was landing, coming from Bangkok. It skidded on the runway, and it looked like the landing gear didn't work. People who saw it happen described a scary screeching sound of metal scraping against concrete. The plane went off the runway, hit a small hill, and then caught fire. Even with all the destruction, there was a little bit of hope. 2 crew members who were sitting in the back of the plane somehow lived through the crash. It was partly luck, and partly because of how the plane was built. Their survival gave a little comfort on such a sad day. Rescuers worked quickly to save the 2 survivors from the burning plane. They were rushed to a nearby hospital, and at first, no one knew if they would be okay. The whole country hoped and prayed that they would live. The survivors were hurt badly, but they were able to tell investigators what happened. What they remember from the last few minutes of the flight will be very important for figuring out what went wrong. At the airport, families waited, not knowing what would happen. They gathered in a waiting area, their faces showing worry and fear. They held on to hope, praying for a miracle. But as time went on, everything became very quiet. The hard work of figuring out who the victims were began. It was a sad and difficult job. Dental records, fingerprints and DNA were used to identify the bodies. Many bodies were badly burned. Each time someone was identified, it brought a new wave of sadness. The youngest victim was a 3-year-old boy who was coming back from his first trip overseas. A young woman, going home to celebrate her grandmother's 80th birthday, would never give her grandmother her gift. While the country mourned, investigators started the difficult job of figuring out why the plane crashed. At first, some people thought it might have been a problem with the landing gear. Others thought maybe a bird had hit the plane. When they found the black boxes, the flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder, there was a little bit of hope. These devices are built to survive even the worst crashes, and they hold the answers to what happened to Flight 2216. The investigation will take a long time and be very complicated. Experts from South Korea, the United States, and Boeing will look at every piece of evidence. The whole world is waiting for answers. Was it a problem with the plane? Was it a mistake by the pilots? Or was it a terrible combination of things?